Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today. Mr. Craig, thank you for the kind words on Act 52, but to be honest with you, you did a lot of the heavy lifting, and if it wasn't for all your hard work and determination, we probably couldn't get that legislation across the goal line. So thank you in your capacity with the Treasury Department then.
I appreciate it, and it's not something people talk about, but I think it's going to have a profound impact on taxpayers, and it will be positive.
Well, just by posting that information, it's very helpful to the preparers that had such a concern, and all the individuals in business that can see what the outcomes of those rulings are. I think it's going to streamline the whole process.
Agree. I mean, it's been my experience that most taxpayers want to comply with the law. They just need to know where the lines are and what the decisions are.
Right.
And while these decisions aren't precedent-setting, they certainly offer very good guidance and advice to taxpayers, to accountants, to advisors, to companies that want to do business in the Commonwealth. So, I mean, I don't want to get into a big self-congratulatory exchange, but this really was an important piece by the General Assembly, and I think the Commonwealth has been well served by it.
Thank you. My question has to do really with the unclaimed property, and you talked about that, I think, in your opening remarks. The first few statements you talked about the change of the 5-year process of unclaimed property, moving it to a 3-year. And that's something that this committee worked very hard, and we debated last year whether it was prudent to do that or not, and I think we had a number in the budget that we struggled to come up with, because when you are projecting something like that into the future, we weren't sure if it was the right thing to do, and we really weren't sure of the total dollar figure. But I think the dollar figure that we used at the time was $150 million, and I think you said that you generated $173 million. Is that correct?
We think we're going to double your projection. I mean, and again, we're projecting that. The reporting period is until April, but Mr. Rohanna in our office has done an excellent job of aggressively marketing this change, alerting the holder reporting company, those companies that advise other companies, having webinars and an outreach. And based on the early reporting we've received so far, and attendance and webinars and things like that, and looking at other matrix, we're comfortable in telling you that things may change, but we think we're going to exceed that and double it to the general fund. I don't think there's any doubt. It was a good decision.
So in your budget request there, you were asking for additional staff to do some of those things that you just mentioned. Is that correct? Technically,
the governor's office cut our staff, identifying about $1.2 million as being a non-reoccurring cost. We think that characterization is incorrect. We're looking for the restoration of that cut, which is 1.2, but we're also looking to have our budget brought up by another $2 million so that we can maintain just our existing complement and to fill 18 vacancies. That's an optimal position. I'm not telling you that the world will come to an end or those revenue numbers are jeopardized if we don't receive that. But we are a revenue generating agency.
Well, listen, we debate several, we debate issues here and on both sides of the aisle, and if there's a cost of $1.2 million that's going to generate twice our estimate of $150 million, I think that's something that we need to talk to the governor about and say, look, I mean, we think this is money well spent. It's proven money that's well spent, and it's obviously additional $150 million that we need going into the budget cycle. So I appreciate your hard work there, and again, it was a tough decision in last year when we worked on this in the budget, and we just weren't sure. So having you here today confirming some of those numbers is great. I guess in closing, it's great that we're receiving this money, and we appreciate what you do. But there's unclaimed property out there that belongs to our constituents. I mean, where are they missing? Where is there a disconnect between individuals losing this property or just becoming disconnected from could you just explain where this money comes from? Does it come from estates, insurance companies, bankruptcies that have liquidated assets 10 years down the road? I mean, could you just explain how this money is unclaimed?
It really is an amazing thing because it comes from just about every scenario you could possibly think of, and some you don't. Large chunks of it come from settlements with insurance companies that we heard about earlier. Some of them comes from the fact that you move, you don't realize that, gee, I did pay my Comcast bill 1 month early, they owe me a refund. You don't really seek it, it doesn't get to you because you've moved, and the address bounces back to them, and they don't know where you've moved to because you went over to Sprint or Verizon. It can come from a sense, a small passbook savings account that maybe you had as a kid. forgot about it, the bank changed hands, they lost track of who you are, and you've got $45 there. It can come from savings account, safety deposit boxes in which somebody put in their Honus Wagner autographed baseball. I kid you not, that was one in which there was no relatives. The person passed away, he had no ancestry. And by the way, it's not worth as much as a Honus Wagner baseball card. But we received, we have jewelry, we have silverware, musical instruments, etc. But the majority of it is cash or stocks and things like that. So it's life, getting in between people, and we have a law that dates back almost to the Civil War. It's one of the first consumer protection laws in the country, designed to say you, the company or holder, you have a duty to reunite this, and if you don't, the state will take over that duty.
Well, if there's something that we can do to help connect our constituents to their money, it'd be helpful. I know, it's hard. We're all sitting here kind of shaking our head like, how can you forget jewelry or money or something, a safe deposit box? But if there's some way that we could educate our constituents that there is money out there. And I know we file, like in the paper, we do see the unclaimed property by name saying, please call the department. We think if you're John Jones, we have money for you. So we appreciate your outreach, but if there's something that we could do to help connect the people, that would be great too.
I think it's a great constituent service. Each year, and if you haven't received it yet, you should, you will receive a disc from our office. And this disc is broken down by district, and it lists all the folks in your district who have unclaimed property, and allows somebody in your district office to be able to write a letter or pick up the phone and say, hey, Mrs. Doe, you have, did you know you have $45? And in fact, we think legislative offices are oftentimes the most cost-effective means of contacting individuals in the district, much more so than finders. There are a group of people out there that will take a look at these discs, call up Mrs. Jones, and tell her, hey, for a fee, I'll get this money back to you, when in fact it is a free service we provide. So I think we can do a better job of kind of nudging and pushing members of the legislature to kind of follow up on this.
Yeah, and we do it, and I know a number of legislators that also do that, and that that's a very good conversation that we like to have when you call up and say, oh, by the way, we think there's some money owed to you. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for that outreach. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.